On the night of April 26, 1777, rain poured down over the countryside of New York and Connecticut. Darkness wrapped the hills, and the muddy roads were almost impassable. In most homes, candles were snuffed out, and families were settling in for the night. But in one farmhouse in Fredericksburg, New York, a storm far greater than the one in the skies was about to break. 16-year-old Sybil Ludington, daughter of Colonel Henry Ludington, was about to make a decision that would turn her into one of the unsung heroes of the American Revolution. The war had been raging for nearly 2 years. The 13 colonies were locked in a struggle against the British Empire, one of the most powerful military forces in the world. The Hudson Valley region of New York was a critical battleground. Whoever controlled it could split the colonies and choke off supplies. The Ludington family farm was not just a home, it was a hub of militia activity. Colonel Ludington commanded the local militia, a force of farmers and tradesmen who could be called to arms at a moment's notice. That evening, a rider arrived at their door, exhausted and breathless. He brought dire news. British troops, along with Loyalist allies, had landed at the coast and were marching toward Danbury, Connecticut. Danbury wasn't just another small town, it was a major supply depot for the Continental Army. Inside its warehouses were precious stores of food, gunpowder, clothing and weapons. If the British succeeded in destroying them, it would be a heavy blow to the Patriot cause. The militia had to be called out immediately. But there was a problem. The men were scattered over a wide area, more than 30 miles in every direction. There was no instant communication, no telegraph, no phones. The only way to summon them was by sending riders through the night. The messenger who had arrived at the Ludington home was spent. His horse could go no further. Colonel Ludington needed someone who could ride fast and cover enormous ground. That's when Sybil stepped forward. She was just 16, but she was already an experienced rider who knew the backcountry roads well. The danger was obvious. The roads were dark, wet, and in some places little more than muddy trails. Bands of British soldiers and Loyalists could be anywhere. There were also roaming highwaymen who took advantage of the chaos of war. But Sybil did not hesitate. She mounted her horse, a mare named Star, and set off into the storm. She carried nothing but her determination and a stick which she used to pound on doors and windows, calling out to sleeping families, "The British are burning Danbury. Muster at the Ludington farm." Mile after mile she rode through the rain and darkness. She travelled through Carmel, Mahopac, Kent Cliffs, and as far as Stormville, circling back toward her home. In all she covered roughly 40 miles, nearly twice the distance of Paul Revere's more famous ride. Unlike Revere, Sybil did it entirely alone, with no backup riders to take over. By the time she returned, drenched and exhausted, hundreds of men were on the move toward Danbury. Though the British succeeded in burning the town and its supplies, the militia managed to regroup and harass them as they withdrew, engaging them in skirmishes at places like Ridgefield. The British suffered losses, and the attack did not break Patriot resistance in the region. Sybil's ride never gained the same fame as Paul Revere's. There were no poems written about her at the time, no grand public recognition. She lived quietly after the war, marrying a man named Edmund Ogden and raising a family. She died in 1839 at the age of 77. It wasn't until many decades later, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, that her story began to be celebrated. Historians and local communities started telling the tale of the teenage girl who had ridden through the night to save her father's militia. Today, in Carmel, New York, there is a statue of Sybil on horseback, commemorating her bravery. Her story reminds us that the American Revolution was not won only by generals and soldiers whose names fill the history books. It was fought by ordinary people, farmers, tradesmen, and even teenagers who took extraordinary risks for the sake of independence. Sybil Ludington's ride was longer than Paul Revere's, more dangerous in many ways, and carried out without the safety of a larger group. Yet she did it without hesitation, driven by a sense of duty to her family, her community, and the cause of freedom. Even today, more than 2 centuries later, her story stands as a testament to courage in the face of overwhelming odds. A reminder that sometimes the greatest acts of heroism happen far from the spotlight. in the pouring rain on a lonely road, under the hooves of a determined young rider and her horse.